stand.
Good morning. I go on farmer time. I like to start on time. So we're glad to see everybody here today. My name is Charlie Meier. I serve as the Assistant Republican Leader and State Representative. I represent the 109th District, which includes portions of Bond, Clinton, Madison, and St. Clair and Washington counties. Today I'm joined by Clinton County Sheriff Dan Travis, Aveston Police Chief Mike Cool, and Peggy Strong, the mother of Marjorie, a former CILA resident who is now thriving at Murray Center. We are here today to share some of our concerns about the safety at community integrated living arrangements, CILAs, otherwise called group homes. You will hear from my local law enforcement discuss the number of 911 calls they receive at CILAs, and from a parent that had her daughter living in a CILA that essentially was put there to die. I now will introduce you to Dan Travis.
Thanks, Charlie.
Charlie, the windscreen fell off that microphone down there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. As Charlie said, I'm Dan Travis. I'm the Sheriff of Clinton County. I am in charge of the 911 telecommunications center that handles all the fire EMS and police calls to all these CILA homes. We have noticed a large uptick in problems out of the CILA homes recently, within the last few years rather. We've noticed certain homes are more prone to many more calls for service and more serious types of calls, whether it be sexual assaults, residents that have left, that are walking through the community, going into people's homes, things of that nature. We've noticed more issues with inadequate staffing and staffing that's not trained. We've also noticed blatant disregard to the needs of the residents in general, whether it be their medical needs or anything of that nature. We also, in my county, is the Murray Center. At the Murray Center, we typically, we don't have these kind of problems. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Chief Mike Cool from Aveston Police Department. And Mike has one of these CILA homes that are one of our chronic, I wouldn't call it abusers, but one of our chronic problems in the fact that many of these problems are coming from this home, and he can, like I said, address those types of problems to you.
Cool is like cool?
K-U-H-L, correct. K-U-H-L. Thanks, everyone. Good morning. Like I said, I'm Chief Cool with Aveston Police Department. Small community down in Southern Illinois, town about 2,300 people. In that town, we have 3 different CILA homes facilities. I'm going to name them as 1, 2, and 3 because I'm not going to give you addresses. But CILA 1, since 2020, we've had 3 calls there, and they've been medical calls. CILA 2 has had 2 calls, and they've been medical calls. CILA 3 has had over 67 calls. Okay, out of those 67 calls, 14 of them are non-emergency, so they're medical, they're unfounded, that kind of stuff. So 58 calls have been serious in nature. So we're talking resident-on-resident violence. We're talking resident violent towards staff. Suicidal calls. 19 different incidents where the resident has walked away from the facility and is either sitting on the side of the road on a busy highway. And the reason for that is the staff is short. They only have one person working and they can't leave the facility and go out and search for this person. So it's up to us to go find this person. We've had 2 sexual assaults in the last 6 months. Since we've scheduled this press conference, we've had an incident there, 2 residents in the front yard fighting. We go to the scene. We get the situation settled down, and it's not even an hour later we go back. The female, she's 27 years of age, maybe a 3-year-old mentality. That's the right words. She has since punched the light fixtures and drywall, and she's in need of medical attention. We called the EMS. She's terrified of ambulances and fire trucks and so forth. So I transport her by squad car. My detective came in on his day off for this. We transport her to the emergency room, and we stay with her for at least a couple hours until they get a staff member over there to sit with her. So these are the incidents we're having. It's short staffing. It's just total disregard for the safety of these residents. So we're definitely showing concern. So, all right. Oh yeah, on that last incident, I'm sorry. Last incident, we did hear from the social worker as we were in the emergency room. All the residents in that facility were short. They did not get their meds that day, and that's why we had the incident. So, all right. Peggy Strong.
Hi, I'm Peggy Strong, and I'm here to tell the story of my daughter, Marjorie. Marjorie has a very rare syndrome called Phelan-McDermott. Comes with all kinds of developmental delays, physical, medical problems. She also has muscular dystrophy. She's extremely vulnerable. She's like a baby in an adult body. She's very sweet. And there's her picture. I just have to show you so you get an idea. She is adorable. She lived in a CILA for many years. The CILA had very little training and little, if no, oversight. And I think that's a lot of the problem in CILAs. The staff turnover was very high. Marjorie had 25 to 30 diagnoses, medical and with her developmental delay. So her care was very complex. And for somebody to be new, just off the street, hired, and try to take care of someone like Marjorie, it's just impossible, even with the best intentions. And sometimes the intentions were terrible. Sometimes she was neglected. Sometimes she was abused. This is a picture of a bruise on her leg that is the shape of a footprint. You can tell. It's obviously somebody hit her with a shoe or with a foot, but because there is so little oversight and there is so little training, Marjorie fell into these sort of circumstances quite often. I personally provided quite a lot of the training for the new staff. If they got a new staff, I would meet with them and tell them what Marjorie needed and all her medical things, questions. I would call every day if I didn't stop by. I had about 20, I had a little flow chart so that I could check in on people. Still, she suffered the abuse. In 2016, by the time Marjorie had gone through several years of this, being sat on a couch, being left, no activity, no physical exercise, all her systems started to shut down. And we had hospice on standby. Oh, I could not collapse into the grief of losing my daughter. I had to fight for a place for her to die without pain in a safe environment. And I reached out to my state representative, Terry Bryant. At the time, she's now a senator. And she recommended Murray Center. So fast forward, I applied and applied and applied. It was very difficult to get the application process productive, but with the help of Terry Bryant and Rep. Myers here, we got Marjorie accepted, and she is thriving. She not only didn't die, she is thriving. She is riding her bicycle. She is walking up and down the halls, and it's just a miracle. Had Murray Center not been available, Marjorie would not be here. She would not be thriving. She would be dead in that CILA. having gone through hospice. Not all developmentally delayed adults or people, children, can live in a community integrated living arrangement. Some individuals thrive there. Some, it's very dangerous, and they die there, and they are neglected and abused. And when you've got someone that is nonverbal, like Marjorie, who is sweet and passive and adorable, who just sits there, she can fall through the cracks, and she can never, ever tell you her story. So that's why I'm telling her story for her. And that's why you need to pass the word on that not everybody can live in a CILA. They need more oversight, yes. And some of them work out beautifully. But some individuals with complex medical situations like Marjorie need a large facility with more resources. And that's all I have to say, but I do thank you for listening to Marjorie's story. And here's her at the Murray prom. They have wonderful activities there. It's not one flew over the cuckoo's nest. Don't let anybody ever tell you that. It's warm and welcoming, and those people treat Marjorie like their daughter, like their family. So Murray Center is a miracle. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy.
Now that you've heard from our first responders about the incidents of rape, sexual abuse, the neglect of residents, and even starvations that we can document in the state of Illinois that have taken place in CILAs, group homes, and you've heard from Marjorie's mom, and she's not lying, her daughter is a sweetheart. And there's nothing makes me happier than when I watch her pedaling her bicycle down the road at Murray Center. I want to be clear, CILAs are not bad. We have wonderful CILAs in the state of Illinois. But many of our CILAs are not good, and nothing is done. For years, for about a year and a half, from what you heard Mike Cool talk about, I've tried forcing that CILA to be closed. That rape, that sexual assault, the incident happened last week, none of that would have happened if somebody in DHS would have listened to us. With that being said, I'm optimistic that tomorrow morning I will hopefully be able to pass 3 bills out of Human Services Committee to address and help protect residents of CILAs and of SODCs. They're House Bill 1298, 2998, and 3545. House Bill 1298 requires the Department of Human Services to establish a system of site inspections. Once again, I want to say unannounced. Right now, once every 3 years, CILAs are inspected. I ask that ARC and Equip for Equality come in and help. This is their specialty. They receive state funds. They are supposed to be an advocacy group for the state of Illinois and do unannounced inspections. Most CILAs will tell you that, oh, we got to get cleaned up. They're coming to inspect us in a week and a half. So what is this going to show if we don't have unannounced inspections to try to help find the abuse going on? You would notice the starvation going on. The second bill is 2998, which will require authorized video surveillance in common areas before the video surveillance equipment is installed or operated in the common areas of a state-operated development center. DHS must obtain unanimous consent from the residents of that facility or their guardians. If an individual becomes a resident of a facility in which video surveillance equipment has been installed for purposes of monitoring common areas, the department must obtain consent from the new resident or the resident's guardian before continuing to operate the video surveillance. The third and final bill, House Bill 3545, requires reports of violations at the CILAs be made within less than 5 days after the incident. If a person involved in the direct care of a CILA resident commits battery towards a client, patient, or resident can be charged with a Class 2 felony Other workers who witnessed this have to report it. The Office Inspector General needs to fast-track these. These cases can't be left out there for 8, 9, 10 months, maybe 13 months. There should be somebody in that agency that immediately starts the investigation and acts upon it within a month, so no more people can be abused. Back on July 12th, 2019, House Bill 3069, a bill that I sponsored, was written into law. It makes it mandatory that the CILAs report any 911 calls. That is happening. We don't believe all of them are being reported, but it's a way of DHS to start monitoring it. We need DHS to step up, make changes, and make sure that everybody is protected. These people deserve that opportunity to have a safe, healthy life, and their families should not be worried like Peggy was for so long of what's happening to their child. So with hopefully your help and keeping the pressure on, we can make a difference. We have to start now. I don't care where it is in the state of Illinois and in what facility it is. Abuse of a nonverbal resident is not permissible. Thank you, and we'll take questions.
Representative, where does DHS stand on each of these proposals that you have right now?
We have finally started talking some yesterday. I don't know if they'll come out in favor or against them. They're pretty simple proposals. Let's get the process started. Let's let them be heard. Sometimes in Springfield, Republican bills aren't allowed to be heard. These are bills to help people that can't talk for themselves. So I hope that we get a chance to hear